It's a brand new year, so maybe you're not feeling this because you're like super motivated. But I wonder, is anybody here like tired? Like, is it? No, I mean, like, are you tired? Are you feeling worn out yet? Again, maybe you're like super motivated because you're just started. But like, are you feeling tired, worn out? Maybe you're stressed out. Anybody feel frazzled right now? Like, there's just so much going on. I wonder, like, do you feel like your plate is full? There are just so many things going on, and maybe you just kind of feel like you're moving from one appointment to the next appointment, to one practice to another practice, and it's just like you're constantly going and going and going. Because of that, you're tired, you're worn out. I guess really what I'm asking is, does anybody here feel busy? Would anybody here say that you're busy? Like, we live in one of the, I think it's probably most people. We live in the most busiest generation of all time. I read an article that described the busyness of this generation. Just listen to it and see if you find yourself in this. The author wrote this. He said, they say this is the busiest generation that ever lived. Today's average adult functions at the same pace of a corporate CEO of 20 years ago. We have schedules for schedules. The day is filled with multitasking, and there's rarely any downtime. The work is more stressful, more demanding than ever before. We're producing more productivity at work with less employees. Families are further apart, yet we're still maintaining contact through added travel. Road trips are constant, sporting events never ending, games, fundraisers, and tournaments sprinkle the calendar. Everything work, family, and church seem mandatory in that order. Pressure to attend the extravaganzas or hyped up birthday parties for 5-year-olds never seem to end. Bar mitzvahs, kindergarten graduation parties that seem like postgraduate school celebrations. The pre-bridal shower to the real bridal shower to the real wedding shower to the wedding practice to the wedding ceremony to the baby shower to the welcoming shower. The staff parties to the staff meetings to the work luncheons, teachers' conferences, meet and greet at school, graduation ceremony practices, church group meetings, church services, church board meetings, church home group studies, out-of-town family visits, business trips, family vacations, community functions, camping trips, dinner engagements to Zumba, Taibo, and cardio, all at 6 p.m. Men's retreats, women's retreats, family retreats, marriage retreats, get away from the retreats, cruise ship getaways, school field trips, Christmas banquets, Thanksgiving parties, must-show banquets, college work, second jobs, concerts, big-ticket sporting events, amusement parks, summer vacations, spring vacations, Valentine's Day vacations. I travel to go see the Groundhog Vacation, Christmas vacations, Mardi Gras celebrations, New Year's Eve celebrations, dinner there and lunch meetings here, laundry to be picked up, kids to be dropped off, kids to be picked up, grandchildren to be watched. The list never ends. And on top of all of that, your phone never shuts off, and it blows up with text messages, alerts, badges, and notifications. Our life is go, go, go till I can't go no mo. Is this anybody's life? Yeah, we are the most busiest generation ever, and we live this way. I mean, this is our life between church, family, school, job, hobbies, friends, binge watching the latest series on Netflix, Amazon Prime, Apple Plus, Disney Plus, Peacock, Paramount Plus, Hulu. The subscriptions are bleeding our bank accounts. But we keep going. Like, there's more to watch. There's more to do. It's constant. It's go, go, go. It's always busy. Like, this is our life. And then we find ourselves getting sucked into the black hole of busyness, but we explain it away by saying things like this. This is just a really busy season of my life right now. It's just busy. This time right now is busy, and that's fine. There are busy seasons of your life. Maybe you move, or you have kids, or you start a new job, or something changes in your life. There are busy seasons of life. However, the problem is one busy season leads to another busy season. And we have all this stuff on our plate. It's falling off. We're riding to the edge of our life. There's no margin in our life. And then when we start to unload some things, we add more things. And then what happens is our busy season turns into another season, And really the truth is we're just living a busy life. Is this anybody? Or am I preaching to myself? Okay, I guess it's just me. Glad you showed up. We'll do some therapy for me. But we live busy. And the problem is, we often wear our busyness as a badge of honor. How you doing? I'm busy, 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 busy. I'm crazy busy. And we wear it like It's a badge of honor when really the truth is it's dysfunctional. But we say we're busy because it makes us feel important. If we're busy, it means we're not lazy. And so I'm busy, busy, busy. Brene Brown said if we had busyness anonymous, they'd have to reserve stadiums to meet in, but then nobody would show up because everybody would be too busy to make it to the meeting. We are the busiest generation ever. And not only are we busy, but again, we wear our busyness as a badge of honor. When people will greet me or talk to me, sometimes people will say, how you doing? Are you staying busy? And I've learned to say, no, I'm not. I feel bad when I say that, though, because then I feel like, oh, maybe they're like seeing me as lazy or I'm not doing anything. But they'll say, are you staying busy? I've changed that to say, no, I'm trying to be productive. I'm being productive because I don't want to be busy. See, when we're busy, what it means is that we have no control over our schedule. Like our schedule controls us. So really what we're doing when we're saying that we're busy, I'm busy, I got a lot going on, really what we're saying is I'm out of control. So I think instead of bragging about our busyness, wearing it as a badge of honor, we should just be more succinct in what we say. And if somebody says, hey, how are you doing? Instead of saying busy, just say, I'm out of control. I'm out of control. I have no clue how to maintain my schedule, how to manage my schedule. I'm saying yes to way too many things. I am out of control. And because of that, it becomes a problem. In an article that Seth Levine writes entitled, You're Busy, We Get It, he says this, has working to put a dent in the world's biggest problems left your hands tied up? Hate to break it to you, but everyone else is busy too. It might be time to change your mindset about what being busy really is. I'm busy, crazy busy. For years, this has been my standard answer to people when they ask how I'm doing. I'm not just busy, I'm crazy busy, and I bet you are too. But I'm done with that. I'm sick of saying I'm busy, and I'm sick of being busy. I feel like I've built up a persona around always being busy that has ceased to be a description of how I'm doing, but rather has actually become a way of life. See, for many of us, busyness has become this way of life. But I showed up this morning to let you know that God actually has a better way of life for us to live. And I want to introduce you to this way of life. And then I want to challenge you to live this way of life, because if you do what God says, I believe you'll find the life that you long to live. We're in the midst of the series called He Might Have Meant It. And throughout this series, we're looking at some of the tough teachings of Jesus. And we're saying, when he said that thing that he said, he might have meant it. Like I wonder if when Jesus was teaching the crowds, when he had his disciples there and he said that hard thing, whatever that hard thing is, was he just waxing eloquent, or did he really mean what he said? And what we're finding through this series is we're finding he actually meant what he said. We're pushing up against it, and we're saying, just what if he really thought we would live that out? What does that look like for us? And so we're looking at these difficult teachings of Jesus. Last week, we looked at what I said was, I think it's probably one of the most difficult teachings Jesus ever taught, which is die to yourself, take up your cross, and follow me. I think it's probably the most difficult teaching Jesus ever taught. And I think he actually meant that we need to die to ourselves, live for him, serve others. And we talked about what that looked like. If you miss it, you can listen to it on our podcast. You can catch that on our app, also iTunes, on our website, all those different places. So I think that was the most difficult teaching Jesus ever said. Now forget what I just said and listen to this. I think this is the most difficult teaching Jesus ever taught. Not because it's as what's the word? Drastic as dying to ourselves. But I think it's difficult because it's so simple and it's so easy. But yet we don't do it. And so I want to show you what Jesus taught in Matthew chapter 11. But before I do that, when I teach this to you, when I show you this, when we see what Jesus had to say, the reason why I think it's so difficult is because, again, it's so simple that we aren't always willing to do what it takes to get it, right? Like there are things in our life where we want results, but we aren't willing to do what it takes to get it. The desire we have is there, the aim and the goal that we have is there, but we're not always willing to do it. So what I mean is, like, sometimes we want the result of having rock hard abs, but we're not willing to eat right or go to the gym. I mean, we know what it takes to get it, but we just aren't willing to do it, right? The reason why it's so difficult is because it takes work. Like, there are things in life where it could be ours. We could have it if we would just do the hard work required to do it, but we aren't always willing to do the hard work. And so we want friends, but we're not always willing to be a friend. It's hard to have friends because it requires work. You got to be a friend if you're going to have friends. We want more money at the end of the month, but it requires work to do that. It means we got to budget. It means we got to say no. It means that we got to have a plan. And so we want the thing, but we're not always willing to do what it takes to get the thing. We want success in our job, but we're not always willing to read a book on our field or really give ourselves to that thing. Instead, we'd just rather scroll Instagram. It's just easier to do that. And so in order for us to get the thing that we want, it does require work. So it's difficult. One of the values that we have as a church is we be what we want to see. And so I see something in the future. I see who I want to be, but in order for me to be that, I got to be that now. Like, I got to do the hard work required to do that. And so this is so difficult. What we're going to look at is so difficult because it requires work, but it means we need to stop working, right? Like, the thing that we're going to look at, the thing that's so hard for us, it's so difficult because it requires work, but the work that it requires is to not work. And that's so hard for us. Let me show you what Jesus says. Matthew chapter 11, verse 28. He says, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened, and I'll give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I'm gentle and humble in heart, and you'll find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light." See, Jesus offers the busy rest. He says, in order for us to receive this rest, that we need to take his yoke upon us. And when Jesus says take his yoke upon us, he's not talking about an egg yolk, Y-O-L-K. He says take my yoke, Y-O-K-E. And what he's referring to is a tool that a farmer would use where he would place this tool over the necks of oxen. And he would place this tool over the necks of oxen so that he could get more work from them for less effort. See, an ox can pull about 5,000 pounds. And when you have two oxen together, you would think, okay, well, if one ox can pull 5,000 pounds, two oxen can pull 10,000 pounds. You just multiply it by 2 or add 5,000 and 5,000, you get 10,000. But the truth is, two oxen yoked together can pull the equivalent of 15,000 pounds. They can pull even more when they're yoked together. So what Jesus is saying is, hey, you've been running at life on your own. You've been doing this on your own. You've been go, accomplishing only so much. But when you team up with me, when you partner with me, when you put my yoke on you and we do this together, you'll be able to do not just twice as much, but 3 times as much. And it'll take less effort. See, Jesus invites us to put his yoke on him. And also, when Jesus is saying this, he's also saying something that the people of the time would have really understood, because at the time, rabbis would go around and they would teach, and their teaching, their way of living, their lifestyle was called a yoke. And so as a disciple of a certain rabbi, I want to follow them. I want to become more like them. And so I would yoke myself to them. I would fall under their yoke. I would fall under their teaching. And it's like, I'm the follower of this rabbi. So here's his set of teachings. Here's his way of living. And so I'm modeling my life from his teachings and his way of living. I've yoked myself to him. Jesus is saying, hey, if you want rest, if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel busy, if you feel burdened, and you want rest, come and take my yoke upon you. Model your life after my teaching. Live after the rhythms of life that I'm living. See, Jesus talked about this idea of rest, but when he talked about it, it wasn't just something that he said and taught, it was something that he actually lived. Again, Matthew chapter 11, verse 28, come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened, and I'll give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. I'm gentle and I'm humble in heart, and you'll find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. Jesus says that if we need rest, then we need to understand how to live in the rhythms of life the way that God designed us to live. And when we do that, when we model our life after the life of Jesus, by living out his teachings, by doing what he says, then, and we take on that yoke, then what we'll find is Christos, which is a Greek word that he uses here for easy. But what we'll find, if we're going to do what Jesus says, we're going to model our life after his teachings, after the way he lived, it's not very easy. Some other translations for the word Christos is good or useful or kind. And so Jesus is saying, my way of life is good, and the burden that I'm going to place on you, because it is something he's placing on us, is not burdensome. It actually leads us to life. And so Jesus talks about rest, and he offers us rest. But when a good Jew would hear what Jesus was teaching, because again, this happened 2,000 years ago in Israel, he's speaking to a Jewish audience. When they would hear Jesus talk about rest, automatically in their mind, they would equate that to the Sabbath. See, for a Jew, their life and their rhythm was this one of work and rest, work and rest. We work for 6 days and then we rest one day. And that one day that we're resting is called Sabbath. In Hebrew, it's Shabbat. And so Jesus, as he talks about rest, a good Jew listening to him would have already automatically gone to, okay, Sabbath, Sabbath. I need to live in this rhythm of Sabbath. And then just to illustrate this a little more, Matthew, who's writing about Jesus here, goes on for the next 5 paragraphs to talk about Sabbath, and Jesus explained how to live Sabbath out. So Jesus didn't just talk about this stuff, but he lived it, and he showed us how to live in this rhythm of rest. And so that's what I want to look at for the rest of our time. See, Jesus says, if you want to rest, then you got to take up my yoke and follow me. And then, like I said, Matthew transitions. He talks about Sabbath and what that is and what that looks like. So the question is, well, what is Sabbath? And what does it look like to live in this rhythm of Sabbath? It's a great question. I'm glad you asked. So I'll explain it to you, okay? See, the concept of Sabbath really originates in the very beginning when God created the heavens and the earth. The scriptures record for us in the book of Genesis, the very first book of the Bible, that God worked for 6 days creating everything, and then on the 7th day, he rested. Now, the reason God rested is not because he was all tuckered out from his work of creating. He wasn't tired. He wasn't feeling lethargic. He didn't need a break, but he rested on the 7th day to give us a model for the rhythm of how we should live. And so the idea for us is that we would work 6 days and then we'd rest one day. Now, sometimes people say, well, I can't do that. I can't do that because for me, it's hashtag sleep when I die, hashtag no sleep, hashtag always on the grind. Some people say, Pastor, I can't rest. I know God rested, but I can't rest because the devil never rests. That fiery serpent known as Satan never rests. He never takes a break, so I can't rest. I can't take a break. But here's the deal. Last I checked, the devil's not your role model. We're not trying to be like him. And that's probably why he's so mean, because he doesn't ever take a break. If he took a break and went on vacation, he might be better. That might be why you're so mean and you're so spazzed out, because you're not taking a break. We're trying to be like God. And God sets the example by saying, I'm going to work 6 days and then I'm going to rest one. In the same way, you trust me with 6 days and then you rest so that you'll be refreshed and refueled, ready for the next 6 days. When we just go, busy, that's when we start to get burned out. We feel burdened. We feel overwhelmed. We feel stressed. So we see this rhythm of Sabbath, all the way from the very beginning, God sets the example, working 6 days, resting one. But the Sabbath really takes center stage in the 10 Commandments. This is God's top 10 for like how to live. And God gives these commandments to the people of Israel. And here's what we find in Exodus chapter 20, verse 8. As you read through the 10 Commandments, they're found in Exodus chapter 20. God talks about the Sabbath here. And by the way, I want to point out that this is the longest commandment that God gives to the people of Israel. God spends the most time explaining the Sabbath to them. Like, he doesn't go into don't murder, and here's why, and all that stuff. He doesn't explain that very long. The commandment he spends the most time on is the Sabbath. The reason is because for so many of us, this is the command we break most often. If I were to say, how many of you have murdered somebody, like physically? Don't raise your hand. We're glad you're here. We started this church for people like you and people who don't murder. We started this church for people who don't murder too. Everybody, okay, right? But that's not like, man, I'm really struggling with that. You know, for most of us, we're not tempted to do that. But when it comes to observing the Sabbath, resting, taking a break, we struggle with this big time. And this is one of the easiest commandments. Look, God says this, Exodus 20, verse 8. Remember to observe the Sabbath by keeping it holy. You got to love a God who says, one of my top 10 is that you take a break, that you rest. Man, some of us need to really adopt this and even use it for our benefit. Like, some of you need to go to your employer and say, I need a break. It's my religious responsibility. Like, my religious beliefs mean that I got to take a break. Now, I don't know if your employer is going to get with that. I mean, Virginia's a right-to-work state, so you can get fired for that. I don't know. But you could just say, hey, God says I got to take a break. And he's more important than what your policies say. Now, you can't say that in the military. If you don't go to work, you'll go AWOL. You end up in the brig, jail, whatever. So that won't work. But go to your boss, say, I got to take a break. I got to take a break. And there's another company that takes breaks also. And that company is bigger than this company. It's Chick-fil-A. Let's learn from Chick-fil-A. If they can miss out on millions of dollars in revenue by being closed on Sunday, hey, in our job, we can take a break. And they do miss out on millions of dollars of revenue because on Sunday, one of the things you want most is Chick-fil-A, and you can't get it. So just tell your boss, I got to take a break. We work ourselves to death. And here's the thing. I want you to give your all in work. Like, work is God-given. And in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve work. Work is not a bad thing. Work is a really good thing. And we should give our all to our work. We should bring joy to our job, right? But here's the deal. If you give your all to your job, when you die from a heart attack, high blood pressure, or whatever it is, because you're so stressed out and freaked out and overworked, they're going to find somebody to replace you. Like next week. But your family isn't going to be able to replace you. The only people who are going to remember that you worked overtime, that you worked extra hours 30 years from now, are going to be your kids. Dad was always working. Mom was always working. Never had time. The only people who are going to remember that are not your employees or employers or whoever you're working for. It's going to be your kids. You don't want to leave that legacy. We got to take a break. Again, we're not trying to be lazy, but we do need to live in this rhythm of rest. Remember to observe the Sabbath and keep it holy. You have 6 days each week for your ordinary work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath day of rest dedicated to the Lord your God. On that day, no one in your household may do any work. This includes you, your sons and daughters, your male and female servants. I mean, stop making your servants work, right? Come on. I don't have any servants. I know some of you might, but I can't relate with that part. But your livestock, man, livestock, come on. any foreigners living among you. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens, the earth, the sea, and everything in them. But on the seventh day he rested. That's why the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and set it apart as holy. If God needed to rest, so do you. And it's good for you to do that. And I just want to think through this a little more. God gives the 10 Commandments to the people of Israel. Now, the scriptures are written to real people in real places at real times. So let's just stop and think, what was going on with Israel at this time that he gives them the commands? Well, 50 days before they received these commands, they left Egyptian slavery. God delivered them from Egyptian slavery. He brings them to this mountain where he gives them the 10 commandments. And the one commandment he spends the most time on is this one about rest and taking a break. Why? It's because for Israel, for hundreds of years, as they've been in slavery, their worth and value and identity was based on what they did because they're slaves. And their job is to make bricks. And their value and worth is dependent on how many bricks they make. It's bricks, 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 because if you don't produce bricks, now you're a liability to me. Now you're costing me something because I got to feed you, I got to clothe you, I got to house you. I'm spending money on you, and I get money when you make bricks. And if you don't make enough bricks, you're not valuable to me. And so what happens with the Israelites is they move from being human beings to human doings. And they see their identity as what they do, what they produce, how they work. It's all about what they can do, how they produce, how they work. It's bricks, bricks, bricks. Look, Exodus 5. That same day, Pharaoh sent this order to the Egyptian slave drivers and the Israelite foremen. Do not supply any more straw for making bricks. Make the people get it themselves, but still require them to make the same number of bricks as before. Don't reduce the quota. They're lazy. That's why they're crying out, let us go offer sacrifices to our God. Load them down with more work. Make them sweat. That will teach them to listen to lies. Meanwhile, the Egyptian slave drivers continued to push hard. Meet your daily quota of bricks, just as you did when we provided you with straw, they demanded. Then they whipped the Israelite foremen and they had put in charge of the work crews. Why haven't you met your quotas either yesterday or today, they demanded. So the Israelite foreman went to the Pharaoh and pleaded with him. Please, don't treat your servants like this, they begged. We have not been given straw, but the slave drivers still demand, make bricks. We're being beaten. But it isn't our fault. Your own people are to blame. But Pharaoh shouted, you're just lazy. Lazy. That's why you're saying, let us go offer sacrifices to the Lord. Now get back to work. No straw will be given to you, but you must still produce the full quota of bricks. Again, for the Israelites, hundreds and hundreds of years, their identity is bricks, bricks, bricks. I'm only valuable based on what I can produce for others. Does that sound like any of us in this room? So often we find our identity in what we do. You ask a kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? They're going to tell you an occupation. They're not going to say, I want to be kind. What do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a good man. I want to be a good woman. No. Let's say, I want to be an accountant. Who am I kidding? No kid says they want to be an accountant, right? But you ask the kid, what do you want to be? What do you want to be? What do you want to be? And they say, this is what I want to do. We equate our value and who we are with what we do, but God said you are human beings, not human doings. And to remind you of that truth, I need you to stop and rest and realize it's not all about what you can accomplish and do and produce. No, you are so much more valuable than that. And you thought something written 3,500 years ago wouldn't apply to you today. These Israelites needed to know 51 days after they got released from Egyptian captivity, it's not about what you do, but it's about who you are and who God says you are. And to know that, you got to take a break. You got to rest. But taking a break is one of the most difficult things for us to do, because here's what I know about every person here. You're busy. You're busy. You're busy. There's still stuff that has to get done. I hear it all the time. Busy, 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 busy. Everybody is busy all the time. And we use our busyness as an excuse to do the things that we really need to do and that are most important. But I want to help us take control. I want to help us take back control. Again, when we say we're busy, we're essentially saying I'm out of control. So how do we take back control now? Before we talk about how to take back control, I do want to say this. There are seasons of busyness. Again, you move, you got to paint the house, or you got to move things. You're busy. I get it. There's seasons for that. You have a baby. Your life gets flipped, turned upside down. You're busy. I get it. There's seasons for that. You have a surgery. There's a death in the family. There's busyness. There's added responsibilities at work. There's seasons for that. But again, we don't want to live a life of busyness. And what happens is these seasons morph into years, which morph into decades, which becomes our life. We don't want to do that. So we're going to take back control. Now, I need to let you know this. This sermon is not one that I just wrote, right? I actually preached this back in 2016. I started and led a church from 2014 to 2021. It was called The Rising. We met in downtown Norfolk. We averaged about 170 people. And what I found is that our church just wasn't getting up above that number. We had seen hundreds of people come to our church, but we didn't have all those people still in our church. And so we did this study, and I want to read to you what I said back in 2016. So earlier in the sermon, I quoted some other people like Brene Brown, but now I'm going to quote me, okay? So here's what I said back in 2016. I said this: busy is the number one tool of the devil to distract us from God. We had over 400 people come to our church for the first time last year, but if you look around, there's not 400 people here. There weren't. Again, it was about 170 people. And I wanted to find out why people didn't come back. So I assembled a team, and we called 283 of those people, and we asked them how they heard about our church, what they thought about it, what their first impression was, whether they still come to church, and if not, why not? And the number one answer we saw from people over and over and again as to why they didn't come back, this is what people said back in 2016. Life got busy. Life got hectic. Really, what people were saying was they got distracted by busyness. Now, last year, in this church, we did the same experiment. We didn't have 400 people come through the doors last year, but we did have 230 people come through the doors for the first time. We don't have 230 people here today. So in July, I assembled a team of people, and we called these people up, and we asked them, hey, just kind of what's going on? Same questions. How's life? What's going on? And we asked them about if they are still coming to Journey, or if they consider this their church, or what happened, or hey, we noticed you haven't been here for several months. What's up? And over again, the number one answer we got from people was life got hectic. Life got busy. In 2016, we got those results. In 2023, we got those results. Over and over again, people have said they're busy. The reason is because I believe the devil will use busyness to distract us from what God really wants for us. And the truth is, God wants you to be connected in his church. Because he knows that when you're connected in his church, you're going to meet some people. You're going to build relationships with some people. You're not in life alone anymore. He knows that you're going to get some tools on Sunday. You're going to get fired up. You're going to get pumped up to go throughout your week and make a difference. And he doesn't want that. So if he can distract you with busyness and other things going on in life, I just got a lot of stuff going on right now, that's why I can't show up. Good. He's winning. He doesn't want you here. He doesn't want you connected like this. He doesn't want you building relationships. He doesn't want you taking steps to get closer to God. So if he can just distract you with some busyness, he's winning. And really what it is not so much busyness, but bad priorities. I think if the devil can get us focused on the wrong things and shift our priorities, then he can crowd our life with a bunch of stuff that doesn't really matter. And then we lose sight, we get off track, we lose focus, and we say it's busyness. But really it's bad priorities. So here's what I want to do. I want to help you think through your priorities. We got to prioritize our life. I'm just going to skip a bunch of this stuff because I only got 4 minutes and 13 seconds left. I'm busy up here right now. I got to get this going on. So here's what I mean. So what often happens in our life is this container is our life, right? And what often happens is we start to fill our life up with like emails and texts and binge watching series and just all the stuff. Laundry, that's laundry right there. Dishes, good night. That's yard work. I mean, and again, all this stuff has to get done. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just we just fill up our life with all this stuff. There's all this stuff, kids' practices and everybody needing our time and all this stuff. And then when it comes time for like the things that are really important to us, they don't always fit, right? And so, like we'll say, man, God is really important to me, and so we'll try and fit him in our life with all this other stuff, and we'll say family is really, really important to me, and so we'll try and fit that in, and then I got work, but it doesn't quite fit, right? It just doesn't all work out, and we say, you know what? But work is really important to me, and I got to work, so I got to provide for my family. So let me take God and family out real quick. I'm gonna put work in first. I got to figure out how to fit all this stuff in here. I got to spend time with my family, so we'll put that my family in here, and then I got God, and like what happened? It doesn't work this way when our priorities are out of whack. So I want to help you see some things differently. See, there are only 3 or 4 things that you can really focus on in life, that you can give your effort and attention to. And I want to suggest what those 3 things should be. I mentioned them already, but these rocks represent the 3 big things in your life. The first and number one priority in your life, I want to suggest, should be God. And so if you make God front and center in your life, before you do anything else, God, I'm going to follow you. I'm going to pursue you. I'm going to read your word. I'm going to pray. I'm going to be connected in your church. This is my priority. God, you are the leader of my life. You come first and foremost before anything else. You're number one in my life. That's your first obligation. That's like your number one priority is your relationship with God. Because as you have a relationship with God, he's going to lead you to the life you long to live. You're going to be healthy, mentally, spiritually, physically, all of that. Like when God is first and foremost, front and center, all the rest of it just kind of falls in place. So God, you're first and foremost. Second is my obligation and my responsibility and my love for my family. And so I'm going to put my family right there. Like I'm going to be the best husband I can be, the best dad that I can be. I want to create memories with my kids. Like my family's not going to get shortchanged. If anything doesn't make it in the realm of my life, it's definitely not going to be my family. My family's making it in there. So God first, and then family second, and then after that is going to be my ministry, my work, and your work. It does fit in here. I practiced it earlier. There it goes. Your work, your ministry is number 3. So in the list of your priorities, it's God, family, ministry. And your work is your ministry, but also your ministry being part of the church, what you do as you serve and you give back. That goes in here as well. And again, your work is your ministry, because if you're a Christian, you're not an architect first, you're a Christian first. So you're like a Christian architect. You're not a teacher first, you're a Christian teacher. You're right? Like your job. And maybe we can't talk about God in the workplace. Fine. Don't talk about him, but live in such a way where people ask you about him. They say there's something different about you, and you're like, well, I can't really talk about it, but because you asked me about it, here's why, you know? Or just forget that rule and talk about it anyway, right? But, like, you just say, here's my priorities. It's God, it's family, it's my ministry, my work, and then all the other stuff, like the emails and the text messages and the grass cutting and yeah, it just piles up, man. It's just sometimes you just gotta be like, screw that laundry, and like let it sit on the couch and move it to another room when people come over. And here's meal prep and the gym and all that stuff, you know, like if I just put everything right and priority first, then everything else will fit in, and it all just kind of works. And so I think the way we battle busyness is just by saying, I'm going to get my priorities right, and that's God first, family second, ministry third, and all the rest will fall in place. When we get it out of order, when we get it out of whack, then it just doesn't work and it doesn't fit. So I want to ask you, what do you need to do differently to beat busyness? Maybe it's time to readjust your priorities. I'm willing to bet that's probably for the majority of us. It's time to relook at our priorities and say, I'm gonna do life differently. God, I've been neglecting you for a long time. Not anymore. Family, I haven't been available for you like I want to be. Not anymore. My ministry, my job, I'm going to pour myself into this even more and give my all. And if I don't do anything, I'm going to do these three things. I'm going to let everything else just fall in where it may. You can even break down these three big rocks even more. When it comes to God, your relationship with God, maybe say, okay, the three things I'm going to do in that is I'm going to make it a habit every single day to read the Bible. That's what I'm going to do. If I don't do anything else, I'm going to read the Bible today. And then I'm going to pray. And then I'm going to make sure I'm connected in God's church. And I'm going to be connected by observing, like here in our church, we have the 4 G's, growth, groups, gifts, and giving. I'm going to be in a group. I'm going to give. I'm going to be serving. These are the things I'm going to do to maintain my relationship with God, because if not, it's going to be easy for me to fall off. So I'm going to read the Bible, I'm going to pray, and I'm going to be connected in the local church. The second rock, family, maybe the thing you say is, what we're going to do to focus on family is 4 out of 7 nights of the week, we're going to have dinner at the table. That's what we're going to do. We're not going to do it in front of the TV or have screens or anything like that. We're going to have dinner 4 out of 7 nights. That's what we're going to do. Maybe say for family, the thing before we turn on any screens or do our own thing, we're going to take 30 minutes to like look at each other and talk. Like we're going to do that because we got to strengthen our family. Maybe say for family, like the priority that we have is we're gonna go on an adventure together. We're gonna do something we've never done before this year that's gonna push us and challenge us and help us create some memories. We're gonna do that. So you just figure out, man, what are the priorities when it comes to family? And then when it comes to work, your ministry, you can break that down even more. I'll just tell you, for me, in my work, I have all these different responsibilities, but the 3 things I've broken down are, in my job, the 3 things I need to do are preach, cast vision, and develop leaders. If I do those 3 things, preach, cast vision, and develop leaders, then I'm doing my job. There's a bunch of other things that go along with my job, but instead of giving my time, effort, and energy to those things, all the little rocks first, I need to give my time, effort, and energy to preach, cast vision, and develop leaders. Everything else will fall in. I don't know what it is for your job. What are the three things? You say, I'm going to give myself to these three things in my job. Do those three things. Let everything else fall in. We live a frenetic, fast-paced, crazy, busy life, but it doesn't have to be that way. Jesus says, if you'll just follow me, I'll lead you to rest. And the rest he leads us to is by observing a rhythm of rest, by observing a Sabbath. So this week, when is your Sabbath? When's your day off? When's your day you're just going to do things to refresh and refuel yourself? If you don't have it in mind, now's the time to schedule it. So now you've heard this. Difficult teaching of Jesus. Take a break. What do you need to do? And what's a step you're going to take? What do you need to do? And what's a step you're going to take to get you where you want to be? Would you pray with me? God, I thank you so much for your grace, your mercy. We want to get this right. We are doing everything we can, but there is so much for us to do. And sometimes we feel overwhelmed. Sometimes we feel freaked out and frazzled because we can't get it all done. And all these different things are vying for our attention, for our brain space, for our time, all of it. And we feel pulled in so many different directions. Help us today to narrow it down to what's most important. And say, if none of that stuff gets done, here's what will get done. My relationship with you, my relationship with my family, and my ministry in this world, the work you've given me. That's what I want to give myself to. So God, some of us have neglected our relationship with you. I pray that you remind us and let us know that you are not far from us, and all we got to do is come back to you. Some of us have been neglecting our family. We haven't been the husbands that we need to be, the wives we need to be, the mothers, the dads that we need to be. I pray that today is a day where we can just say, you know what, I'm sorry, but I'm making a change because I'm not neglecting this big rock anymore. And then for others of us, we've just been working a job. We haven't been like giving our all in, and it's time for us to pursue our dream, our passion. It's like make a difference in this world through our work, so help us do that. God, we don't want to be busy anymore. We want to be productive. So help us follow you and take a break. In Jesus' name, amen. Hey, every single week we have an opportunity to remember the sacrifice Jesus made for us on the cross by observing communion. In your chairs, you have a cup, and in that cup is some bread. It reminds us of Jesus' body that was broken for us, and then there's some juice there. It reminds us of his blood that was shed for us. I want to invite you, as we sing the chorus of this next song, just sit and take communion when you're ready. But let this be a reminder for what's most important in life. Not all the time and energy and attention you give to all this other stuff, but like the truth that God loves you and he sees you as his child and he calls you to something greater. And he wants to help you walk in the rhythm of rest. So let communion be a time where you remember that. And if you've never made the decision to accept Jesus, to say, I want in on this relationship with you, Jesus. If you've never been baptized, I want to invite you to make that decision as well. In our app, you can let us know that you want to get baptized. We have a connect form where you can mark a box that says, I want to be baptized. I'm ready to go all in with Jesus. If you got questions about what it means to follow Jesus or go all in with him, man, I'll be out in the lobby afterwards. I'd love to talk to you about it, answer questions that you have. But God has called us to live in the rhythm of rest, and he modeled it and showed it through the way that he lived. So as we sing this next song, would you just reflect on what's true, that God loves you, he gave his life for you, and you're not in this alone, but he can help you walk in the rhythm of rest. So let's sing, and feel free to take communion.